Oh, really? Cool. So these are 5 ways to take care of the environment. The first one is turn off anything that uses electricity when not in use. If you're watching TV and you have to do something for your mom or you have to do homework, can somebody tell me which is the wise thing to do if you're not watching TV? Mario.
Turn off the TV.
Turn off the TV. What about the lights, the bedroom lights?
Turn off the light to waste the energy.
Exactly, yes. So that's one of the things that we can do in order to help the environment. The other way to help the environment is recycle as much as you can.
Interruption, test administrators at this time, please get the students that are on your testing roster.
All right, so recycle as much as we can. We already talked about that. Conserve the water. Water is very, very precious. I don't know if you guys know, but when you look at the planet, can you all look at the world that we have in the back? As you can see, all the blue parts of that map stand for water. Over 70% of the planet is liquid water. But there is only one. We have a huge problem because out of that 70%, we can only drink 3% of that water. Only 3% of that water is fresh water. And most of that fresh water is in the poles, up in the North Pole and the South Pole. And do you guys remember what I told you about the poles? What's happening to the poles? That was a good. Raise your hand next time. Yes, Unita?
The ice is turning with the water.
Yes, the ice is melting. And all this ice, all this fresh water is going to the ocean. So it's going to waste. So we only have a limited amount of liquid water that we can actually drink. And in so many cases, we litter around these rivers or lakes, and this water is becoming contaminated. So that's one of the reasons that we have to learn how to conserve water. Plant a tree. Trees are very, very important. Can somebody tell me why are trees important? Anaya?
Because animals could live there now.
That's a good one. Katie?
So animals can live on the trees?
Yeah, so animals can live in the trees so that we can create a bigger habitat for animals. Mario?
To not they can sleep?
Yes, to create a bigger habitat for the animals. What about, do trees give us food?
No. Yes.
You don't get food from trees?
Yes.
What about bananas? What about oranges?
Yes.
Apples? So yeah, another thing that they do is that trees create oxygen. And oxygen is very, very important for us because we can breathe fresh air. And the last one is use both sides of the paper. So whenever you're doing homework or whenever you're writing, it's very important to use both sides of the paper, mostly because, does anybody know how do we make paper? Where do we get paper from? Are you guys the only ones to know the answer to this? Diego?
From trees.
From trees. Yes, we have to cut down trees in order to create more paper. So that's the reason that we encourage you guys to recycle paper, because that way we don't have to cut down any trees. So we can just reuse it over and over. Yes, Anita?
Paper is made out of wood.
The wood comes from the trees, right? Exactly.
Sit down, Juan.
And we also need to learn how to coexist with different species of animals and plants. Does anybody know what the word coexist means? No? So the word coexist means to be able to live along with animals and trees in peace. That's what the word coexist means. And here I have some pictures that I found online. You see how those little chickens are learning to coexist with that cat. And look at the baby. That's like a dog, I think. She's carrying all the baby.
Doing? That looks like a dog. That looks like a cat.
It is a cat.
The cat is doing something. They're looking to the chicks behind them.
They're coexisting. They're able to live together in the same place without fighting. So that's what we learn. We have to learn how to do with animals and plants. Exactly the same thing. And that's a family of foxes. So that was a very good picture, and I decided to bring it to you guys. You like it? Great. And today we are going to be reading a very special book, and I need you guys to pay attention. And you guys pay attention, and you know the answer to all the questions that I'm going to ask you at the end. We are going to have a little candy party. Okay? So I need your attention at all times. So the first thing that we are going to do is we are all going to come here to the rock. Just 1 second. Group number 1, come first. Table number 1. Just sit right there in the corner. All right. Table number 2. Can you get that type of Table number 3. Table number 4. And then table number 5. Come over, guys. All right, great. So today we are going to be reading a book called The Curious Garden. Have you guys read this book before?
Yes.
You've read it before? Okay, so you gotta keep the secrets.
The Curious Garden has like bird made of leaves.
Oh yeah. Have you guys seen these things before? Have you guys ever been to Disney?
Yes.
Yeah, they have these things sometimes.
I was really fun like
Oh, nice. So we are gonna start reading the book, guys, and need your attention again. I'm gonna start. There once was a city without gardens or trees or greenery of any kind. Most people spend their time indoors. As you can imagine, it was a very dreary place. So our story is going to be taking place in this city. And in this city there are no trees or anything. Keisha? You right? However, there was one boy who loved being outside, even on drizzly days. While everyone else stayed inside, you could always find Leon happily splashing through his neighborhood. It was on one such morning that Leon made several surprising discoveries. He was wandering around the old railway, as he did from time to time, when he stumbled upon a dark stairwell leading out to the tracks. The railway had stopped working ages ago, and since Leon had always wanted to explore the tracks, there was only one thing for the curious boy to do. And what do you think that the guy did when he found this door that he had never seen before? Does anybody have any idea what happened next? Katie? A garden, that's a good one, right? That's the title of the book, Mario.
It's the boy with.
Okay, don't tell us. Mario already read the story, so we're going to keep going. Lion ran up the stairs and pushed open the door and stepped out onto the railway. The first thing he saw was a lonely patch of color. Wildflowers and plants were the last thing he had expected to find up there. But when he took a closer look, it became clear that the plants were dying and they needed a gardener. Leon may not have been a gardener, but he knew that he could help. So he returned to the railway the very next day and got to work. And the flowers nearly drowned, and he had a few pruning problems. But the plants patiently waited while Leon found better ways of gardening. As the weeks rolled by, Leon began to feel like a real gardener, and the plants began to feel like a real garden. So the plants were dying, and now Leon is becoming better and better at taking care of these plants. And you can see how they are becoming green. Katie? Your mom takes care of the flowers? Huh, I think that's what moms do. Most gardens stayed in one place, but this was no ordinary garden. With miles of open railway ahead of it, the garden was growing restless and wanted to explore. The tough little weeds and mosses were the first to move. They popped up farther and farther down the tracks, and they were closely followed by the more delicate plants. Over the next few months, Leon and the Curious Garden explored every corner of the railway. And you can see here, there was only a green little patch
if you don't remember. And now you can see how the whole railway is being covered with grass and other type of plants. Can we all see that? Yeah? And here we have the garden growing bigger and bigger. I know, right? After spending his spring and summer and autumn with the garden, Liam's time on the railway was finally interrupted by winter. Heavy blankets of snow fell on the city that season, and for the first time since he'd become a gardener, Liam could not visit the plants. So the snow covered all the trees and all the garden. Rather than waste his winter worrying about the garden, Liam spent it preparing for the spring.
Somebody gets the door for me.
Someone get the door?
So I will get it.
Okay.
Is this Miss Vickers' class?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Thank you.
So, after 3 cold months, the snow finally began to melt, and Liam rolled his new gardening gear over to the railway. Winter had taken a toll on the garden, but thanks to Liam's planning, his handy new tools, and a little help from the sun, the plants soon awoke from their winter sleep. The garden had always wanted to explore the rest of the city, and that spring it was finally ready to make its move. Once again, the tough little weeds and mosses set up first. They popped up farther and farther from the railway and were closely followed by the more delicate things. The garden was especially curious about all forgotten things. And you can see how the garden now is taking over the old cars. So these things are being recycled. And now plants are growing inside of them. Can you see it right here? Those are the drainage of the city. A few plants popped up where they didn't belong. You can see, what's that? Can you see what's that?
a watermelon.
That's not a watermelon.
No, a watermelon.
Jermaine?
A stop sign?
It's a stop sign, and it was completely covered by weeds. Others mysteriously popped up all at once. But the most surprising thing that popped up were the gardeners. And all of a sudden, every single person that lived in this city turned out to be a good gardener. And everybody started taking care of the plants. And this is what the city looks like now.
Whoa.
You see all this beautiful, now they have parks, the grass is taking over the stairwell, they have lakes, and there are gardens everywhere. Many years later, the entire city had blossomed. But of all the new gardens, Liam's favorite was where it all began, up in the railway. And that's what the city looks like now, ladies and gentlemen.
Whoa.
Completely different from page number 1, right?
Yeah.
So I have a couple of questions before. Did you like the book?
Yeah.
You didn't like it? Why didn't you like it? What's one of the things, can somebody tell me, what's one of the benefits that people that live in this city are going to have now that they didn't have before? Diego?
A garden?
A garden, yes. Nicholas? Ingrid, can you help Nicholas? Plants. Trees, yes. And what do we say the trees are important? They give us food. Julian? Mario, can you help him?
Paper?
Yes, paper too, but we are going to recycle, so we are not going to cut down those trees to make more paper, right, Jermaine? Yeah, that's a good one too. Now, raise your hand if you agree that now maybe some animals could be able to coexist in this city. Now that there are so many trees and plants, do you think that animals are able to come here, are going to be able to come here and live with these people?
Yes.
Yes, so that's one of the very important reasons as to why planting trees is so important, okay? So we're gonna have an activity now, and so everybody can go back to your chair. Group number 5, go first. Table number 5. And table number 4. Table number 3 can follow. It's only 10 minutes.
Oh,